Welcome to my podcast. I'm Reagan Bashara, founder of Ollie's Accounting, a bookkeeping and payroll services firm based in the United States. I have almost a decade of small business accounting expertise to share with my clients and the business community at large. I want to help you define your beliefs and values, create better procedures in line with those values, and realize your financial agency and independence as a small business owner. Whether you've got a side hustle or a fully fledged business with a team of employees, we all share the same struggles against our limiting beliefs. Let's overcome those together by imagining new ways of doing business. Hey there! That's a weird way to start a podcast episode. Let's try that again. Hey there. I am going to talk to you today about growing your business and how we do that. So when you think about the question, how do we grow? How do I grow? How do I grow my business? What do we think of first? Well, my response is more, right? I want more clients. I want more money. I want more space. I want a team, or I want to grow my team. I want more members on my team. I want more products to sell. I want more services that I can provide. I want more vehicles or a fleet of vehicles to send my team out into the world to do their jobs, to make me money. Sometimes when we want more of one of these things and the acquisition of that thing actually draws capacity from another area, that prevents us from growing our business. So for example, if you're an AC repair service contractor and you want more customers calling to schedule a service call, that means that you'll make more money, right? If you have more customers to service. But what is actually the cost of more customers or money? If you're a solopreneur, that means you're dealing with more customer service calls with your hands on their system. But you're also having to choose between answering the phone and scheduling new customer service calls or doing the service for your current person. You've got a vehicle that's in use on that service call, and you don't have a team member to assist you or to take on other jobs. The service calls are also taking away time from interviewing and hiring candidates for that team member position. You're not making enough money to even hire them or purchase a vehicle for that team member to use. This is the reality for many business owners who truly have the desire to grow, but limit their own capacity by just doing the work to make the money because they've prioritized having more money. And this isn't a blame-shame game either. This is something we all struggle with, and yes, I include myself in that group. Prioritizing growth and getting more of anything involves some sacrifice, right? It's kind of a painful thing to think about. We might associate sacrifice with martyrdom. Well, if I sacrifice something and therefore I should get the good thing, more of my asks, more of my clients, more space, more time, etc. Because sacrifice makes me a good person who deserves good things, right? But thinking about it this way, this system is kind of rigid. We're saying my time, or effectively our rate, is this much. So if I give that time up, that should return the exact amount, at least in value, right? What if it's not such a one-to-one transaction? If you give up an hour a week to bulk send invoice reminders to overdue clients, what value is returned in maybe the late fees that you collect on those overdue invoices? What value is returned in them making their next payment on time? And then what value is returned from them having a better relationship with you, being a better client for you? What if you gave up 15 minutes exactly once to set up the auto reminder system that's already a part of your software? How many hours of your and your team's time is paid back to you that would have been spent in the future administering your accounts receivable? How about paying for an answering service that handles inbound calls and organizes them into the inbox of your choice, or even schedules their appointment based on your preset hours? So if we take the AC contractor from the early example, they're not missing new customer inquiries while in the middle of a service call if they have an answering service. They have a system in place that doesn't require their full attention at every moment, and if this is the case, they're not otherwise missing out on growing their customers. So I want to give a couple examples from my own business that I'm forever grateful for spending the time and money to set up. I have an automatic scheduling system. My clients have access to the available times on my calendar. They don't necessarily see what appointments I already have on there, but like the onus is on them to open my availability and pick the time that works for them. The scheduling system also handles payment for me, so I don't have to send an invoice later and like remember to do that or whatever. Like the scheduling system will collect the payment for me up front and put that money in my bank account, and it's fantastic. It also sends my clients auto reminders about their appointments. That is huge. It gives them a link to add it directly to their calendar, and it also tells them, hey, tomorrow, don't forget you've got this appointment coming up. It creates a Zoom appointment for me and sends the client the link. It also sends me the link. So that's just one less task that I have to do when scheduling a client appointment. And I'm not spending time going back and forth about availability. And yes, that is something that I used to do. Getting with somebody and saying, hey, okay, so next Wednesday I have like these times available. And then they come back and they're like, next Wednesday doesn't work for me. But that's all they say. And you go back and say, okay, what days do work for you? Like all of that back and forth is precious time that, I used to spend. And I was like, you know what? I'm sick of this. Here's my calendar. You pick a time that works best for you. Another example of something that I've automated in my business is recurring invoices. So the way I'm set up is I engage with my clients in monthly bookkeeping services, and I spread the cost of all the annual services that we do over 12 months. My clients have a recurring amount that they can work into their budget. So there's no random charges for things that I knew ahead of time that I was going to do. I'm not copying and pasting invoices from month to month. And I'm not having to track my billable hours and manually invoicing for what I've done. It's just all inclusive. Everything's rolled into one monthly bill. And finally, like I talked about before, an automated invoice reminder system. This is a big, big thing. It's the biggest thing that any service-based business can relate to. Even if you have set up recurring invoices, there's clients that still take their time to pay, or they look at your invoice once and then they forget about it. Instead of sending reminders yourself, you might want to check to see if whatever bookkeeping system you use or invoicing software, check to see whether you can just automate reminders. So, for instance, QuickBooks Online will let you send automated reminders before the due date. It'll send automated reminders after the due date, on the due date. Like, you can totally customize it to how you would like to communicate with your people. The moral of this story is automation. Businesses that grow and scale have found some way to automate their systems. This is something I work with my clients on too. So I'm going to share with you what questions to ask yourself to get started on automating your processes. First, we have to identify where your time is being spent the most that isn't creating more value than the time you spend on that task. What do I mean by that? If spending, for example, 2 hours a week preparing and sending invoice reminders only returns the payments for work you've already done, plus maybe some meager late fees, I want you to actually calculate that amount. So for an example, if you collect $50 in late fees after you spent 2 hours reminding your people about their overdue invoices, that's $50 over 2 hours, gives you an effective hourly rate of $25 an hour. Do you charge more for your time than that? Like, what is your actual hourly rate if you're like a consultant or you do some sort of service thing? That's not a cost-effective use of your time if you charge more than that, but then you spend that much time and you only get those late fees that effectively result in $25 an hour. If the amount of time that you spend fielding new customer calls a week adds up to 5 hours, if your phone's just ringing off the hook, but you only convert 2 new customers in that 5 hours, and each of them schedules a 1 hour, $59 service call, you've got 5 hours spent fielding new customer calls. You converted 2 of them for a 1 hour service. So that's in total, you've got 5 hours plus 2 service calls. That's 7 hours total. and you've only converted 2 customers of $59 a piece. So you've got 7 hours, but you've only made 59 plus 59 is 118. 7 hours for only $118 worth of work. What's your effective hourly rate? $16.86 for the time it took to convert those new customers plus the time to complete that actual service. That's even less time than the late fee example. That's even less money than the late fee example. So this formula isn't complicated math or anything. It's basically how much time do you spend doing something and what money do you make from doing that. It's just basic hourly rate, right? So to identify the time you spend, I want you to decide on a time tracking system that works for you. This is step 1. So using maybe the clock app on your phone to start and stop whenever you're working on a task, to track how long it takes to do something, or you can just simply write down the start and stop time for each task that you do. And you're going to do this for a week. You're going to write down all the tasks you did, the total time it took for each task. And then I want you to look at what's the task that you spent the most time during that week doing, and did you actually get paid to do it? So if you did get paid to do it, that task, I want you to divide the money you made by the hours you spent doing it. That's your effective hourly rate. But if you didn't get paid to do that task, your effective hourly rate is 0, right? So next, I want you to imagine that task that you spent the most time doing, imagine that was someone else's job, whether it would be a team member of yours, an independent contractor. Would that person charge that hourly rate to do that task? Would you pay somebody that rate to do that task? This is going to help you decide whether this is a task that needs to be outsourced to a team member or maybe an independent contractor that you hire. And finally, my favorite part, if you're not willing to do that task because it's not an hourly rate you want to get paid, and you're not willing to pay somebody that amount or more to do that task, it's time to research how can we put that task into an automated system. So there are apps that come at a one-time or low monthly rate that may require some initial setup, but are actually worth that time back 100 times over. So when you're doing this research, you should actually start with the software and systems that you already have. I would bet money that you have access to tools that would take something off your plate today that you're not aware of, or you haven't taken the time to explore and implement those right now. It's me. I'm you. Join the club. But automation is my favorite part of running a business. It's one of my favorite aspects of the services I provide to my clients. I love implementing new systems, creating processes so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time a new client comes along. But this requires some upfront commitment in, number 1, the time you take to initially write down the tasks you do now and calculate how much time you spend doing them. Number 2, the upfront commitment in figuring out your effective hourly rate when you perform these tasks. Number 3, the time spent determining whether to give that thing up. And finally, number 4, researching how to give that thing up. So I want to challenge you to take back your time right now. Spend the next 15 minutes and choose 3 weekly tasks that you already do. It could be anything. It could be the actual services that you provide. It could be creating products to sell. It could be planning social media content. It could be responding to emails. It could be answering the phone. Just pick 3 tasks that you know you do every week. Write them down. And then over the next 7 days, every time you do that task, I want you to record how often and how long it takes to do those tasks. After 7 days, you're going to follow through the next steps. Calculate your hourly rate. So we talked about that, right? Take one of those tasks. How many hours total did you spend over 7 days doing that task? Did you make money from doing that task? If yes, take the total number of hours and divide it by the amount of money you made doing that task. That's your effective hourly rate. And then, after those 7 days are up, you've calculated your hourly rate for that task, schedule time, at least an hour, to sit down and research. Ask yourself, is automating this task already available to me? If I want to give this task up, and I don't want to pay somebody else to do it, is there something that's already at my disposal that can automate this for me? And if not, let's ask Dr. Google for some ideas. I know you can do this. Take care, have fun. Automation is awesome. Might be a little painful in the beginning, but I promise you are going to make back that time and value 100 times over, no matter what task it is. All right, that's all I have for you today. Have a good one. Bye. If you are enjoying what you're learning on this podcast, please consider supporting me through a subscription on Anchor.fm. Any donation amount is welcome, or you can simply share it with someone you know. You can also follow me on Instagram at alleaseaccounting and sign up for my email list at alleaseaccounting.com/subscribe. Thanks for listening.